And I know some people have made comments about Robert's Rules saying, well, how can I possibly learn this whole book? Okay, something to keep in mind. You don't know every word in the dictionary, but the dictionary doesn't mean that the dictionary is not a fantastic tool to have. Okay, same thing applies. Okay, this is not meant for you to understand inside and out. That's why we hired this lovely lady. Okay, she knows it inside and out, or as probably as close to inside as out as you can ever get. This is mainly as a reference tool. So if you run across something, or if you're trying to move for something, if you're trying to understand how party rules operate after you read about them, this is how you can figure out.
So we saw that a main motion we had on the floor, and we just made a new one before we left, and that motion was to take the recess. And now the recess has been accomplished, and we are back, and we have reconvened. Looking under subsidiary, you've seen an example of amend. Let's pretend for a moment we have a motion on the floor to purchase a computer for our organization. And we've discussed it, and we realized that the motion is to purchase a computer for the organization. It's been moved and seconded. And now we've been talking about it for a few minutes, and we realized that none of us really know what kind of a computer we need or what it is that we want it to do. We are going to refer it to the Ways and Means Committee. I move to refer the motion on buying a computer to the Ways and Means Committee, and that will get a second. It'll be debated and voted on, and now that motion went. This is commit or refer. So now we've sent it away. We have that same motion in front of us to purchase a computer, and we don't have a committee that naturally would fit in. So we say, I move to create a committee of 3 appointed by the chair to research a computer and report at the next meeting. We're creating a committee, commit or refer. So we have the main motion on the floor to buy a computer. Now we're saying we need a committee. I move that we create a committee of 3, how many, appointed by the chair, how they'll get on the committee, to investigate a computer and to report at the next meeting. So there's their assignment. How many, how you get to be there, what you're to do, and when you're to report. And we discuss that, we vote on it, and the motion is referred to this new committee. Time passes, we're at the next meeting, we look at the agenda, and there's the committee on computers, and when we get to them, the chair says, the motion is before you to purchase a computer, may we hear the report of the committee. And the committee says da-da-da-da-da-da, and perhaps comes back with, we recommend that you put an amendment to the motion to say this and that. So it's an unfinished motion that was sent away in a shoebox to the Committee on Computers. They've brought it back with a report, and they're going to tell us what to do. Whose hand? Did I see yours?
Now, how do you bring that up?
The motion was on the floor, and we were debating computers. You just raise your hand.
When that is
on the floor.
Adopted.
Not adopted. It's still being discussed,
okay.
And you can see we don't really know what to do.
Okay.
So right in the middle of that, you can say, I move to refer this to a committee. Right. Diane?
Okay, did you say the chair would appoint 3 people, or would the chair ask for volunteers?
In this particular case, the motion was the chair should appoint. If that motion was adopted, the chair could then say, the motion has been adopted to create a committee of 3 people. I noticed that Joe and Reinhold and Diane, you were particularly interested. Would you serve on that committee? The advantage of that is the secretary is now written down in the minutes who's on the committee. And I have chosen 3 people who had a lot of input, who seemed interested. I'm not going to choose Fred because Fred said, I don't know why we need the darn thing anyway.
You don't say that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So in this case where I want somebody to come back with an action proposal, which of course then can be defeated, I would appoint people who were in favor of it. So yes, the motion said 3 people appointed by the chair, but a chair would wisely, as soon as the motion was adopted, appoint the 3 people.
Would the chair have to appoint the
No.
people?
No, and it might be that the chair might know of other members who were computer experts who were not at the meeting
But it's his place to
appoint.
to negotiate that.
Now, the motion could have also said, I move to appoint a committee of 3 elected by the Green Tree City Council. Or if this was a public body, we might say, move to appoint a committee of 3 citizens. You know, so it could be anything that you wanted. Yes.
Could they only elect 2 and have another vote on third?
Yes. Sometimes you might specify, I move that we appoint a committee of 3, one the owner of a computer store, one a technician with such and such, so you could even define by roles. Yes. The fact is, the option to on-commit or refer, the option gives you the chance to structure something the way that you might like it.
When something is sent out to committee, they still fall under all the other rules and regulations like Open Meeting Act and all this type of stuff.
Yes, and that's a very good, on a public body, that's a very good question. Sometimes, most public bodies are 7 people. City councils, etc., are 7 people. And a quorum of a city council then is
4.
4. One more than half. Sometimes a body will think, well, if we just appoint 3 people to a subcommittee, then it doesn't have to meet the Open Meetings Act. That's a mistake. That is a mistake, because when you appoint 3 people, you have now created a subcommittee, which has a quorum of
2.
Exactly right. And in the Open Meetings Act, which is very short and worth reading, specifically the word subcommittee is in there. And anyone who is elected or is appointed by someone who was elected has to meet the Open Meetings Act. So, for example, when a city council, which is elected, appoints the Parks and Recreation Board, it's like the electricity of being elected flows through your fingers. So whoever you appoint as an elected official becomes subject to the Open Meetings Act and the Freedom of Information Act.
So that means that they have to have a public meeting.
Yes, they must meet in public, which means they must post. And the Open Meetings Act is very clear on what constitutes a posted meeting and on what meetings are permissible to have a closed meeting. And there are some, but it's very specific. Yes.
What if you got a bunch of ornery people? Is Robert's Rule of Order, is that a law? I mean, do you have to function by that book? I mean, what if somebody don't want to function by the book? What if they want to be ornery or miserable or...
Get off the committee.
Yes, well, they certainly can do that. However, in the case of what we're talking about today, as you read the Oakland County Republican Party bylaws and the Republican Party of Michigan rules for selection of delegates and alternates and the rules for the state convention, in each of them they have specifically adopted Robert's Rules of Order newly revised. So it is, if you will, the law, a procedural law for those meetings.
Yes, good.
Organizations that choose not to adopt any parliamentary authority, and there are others besides Roberts, can they just make up their own rules? Well, they certainly can, but notice that I said make up their own rules. That's what they usually do, so they have something that they operate under. And typically it looks like Roberts, because there aren't too many options. That's commit or refer, and that would just come back on the agenda, and that's why we said at the next meeting, so we know that it comes on the next meeting agenda. Postponing to a certain time, the item is on the floor, and we don't know when we can decide on the computer. We can't decide on the computer because the treasurer isn't here today, and we think we don't have any money. So we might postpone the decision on the computer till the next meeting. Limit or extend limits of debate, and we'll come to those because they're very clear in the convention rules. Previous question. That's when you're in the meeting and somebody says question, and the chair says, oh, the question has been called, it's time for the vote. That's not correct. Look, what vote does that require?
2/3.
2/3. So we just ran into one of those general concepts that you can rely on. If your vote takes away the rights of some people, it's going to require 2/3.